What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the BizDad Podcast. Today, I'm excited to have a conversation with Chris Merz. Chris is on the complete opposite corner of the U.S. from me, up in Portland. So looking forward to having a conversation with you. I'm glad we were able to work this out. And before we even started recording, I could hear success bells happening in the background. So hopefully we get to talk about that on the recording on the business side of the house. So Chris, if you can, please go ahead and tell us about yourself, tell us about your business, or tell us about your family, then tell us about your business.
Yeah. So Chris Merz, Adam, thanks for having me on. Excited. So here local, here in Portland, Oregon, local to me, and married, and we have two young boys. We have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. I don't know, beyond that, I'm not sure what else you'd like to know about the family.
No, that's good. How long have you been married?
We eloped in 2020.
Okay.
Right. We were going to do the, big wedding and all that. And we kept sending out wedding invites and then extensions and, because they weren't allowing us to do it. And me being a good, Catholic boy, raised, Catholic boy, was like, we wanted to have kids. And I said, well, I don't want to keep pushing this out. Like, hey, let's, start having kids. So we both decided that we just eloped. And literally, I think my wife got pregnant, 60 days later. Right.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
Welcome to the BizDad Podcast, where we dive into the melding of fathership and entrepreneurship with your host, the original BizDad himself, Adam Labar. Adam is a Christian, a former Air Force officer, a dad to 3 amazing kids, a coach, a real estate investor, and a business owner. On this podcast, he'll explore the unique journeys of amazing dads who are striving for greatness in both business and family. So whether you're a dad who is an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply a man striving to be a better dad, get ready as the BizDad brings you conversations to inspire, challenge, and equip you to be a better dad and entrepreneur. And now, here's Adam.
All right. So coming up on then 6 years marriage, 2 kiddos. You plan to have more, or is that it?
We're really happy with 2. I think it ultimately comes down to what our wives want to do, right? Because as we were talking about before, like they're the ones that have to carry it, right? And change their entire body, right? And then birth, it is a miracle, right? And so maybe, right, if my wife is on board, but we're very happy with 2. So
very good. Yeah, I always tell people, I said I was incredibly happy with 2, and I'm incredibly even more happy with 3. I would probably be even happier with 7. Like I don't even know if it can continue to get happier and happier, but that's what it feels like every time I had brought in a kid. I was like, this is even better. Like I don't know how, but it's even better.
Yeah. Is it even just more controlled chaos with more children, or does it get a little bit more,
There's a little less chaos as you continue, because obviously as the kids get older, then it makes life a little bit easier because the kids are getting older. So, you get to, I especially have it, well, because we've got a wide gap in our ages. So like my 11-year-old helps me out a ton with my 2-year-old, and even with my 7-year-old, like he's just turning into a little young man, and he's able to help out a lot, and he's bringing things around. So, it just makes the chaos less chaosy. But now, of course, he's turning into a little young man. So there's a little bit of extra tension that happens, a little bit of extra anger that builds up inside of him. So like now we're working with that level of chaos. And it's just, but I think every stage has its different levels of chaos, but they're all fun. It says Portland REI in the background. So I'm assuming you do some real estate stuff. Tell me about your business.
I've been in real estate now for 11 years, no, 12 years, got in 2014. And do residential resale, helping, clients buy and sell. And then also focus a lot more, as I've been in the business longer, similar to what you're doing, you kind of niche down, right? You start with, let's start as, wide as possible. And then you start to niche down. And so what you see behind me is Portland Real Estate Investors Group. And so I have a meetup once a month for real estate investors. And my niche has gotten more towards real estate investing and helping people, buy and sell their investment properties, build their portfolios. while I'm doing that as well.
Okay. Is that still focused on mostly single family, or is that multifamily as well?
You know, gosh, it could be, flips. It can be shoot their first house hack. It can be, I just got off a call with, a guy, they have 7 different properties and I'm going to help them sell their first duplex, right? They bought a bunch of properties, but they just haven't sold any yet. So, yeah, I'm like kind of in that niche where they haven't gotten to commercial yet, or they're starting to dip their toe into the commercial realm. And then, I'll be with them to kind of help them up to, I understand multifamily. If they want to go to retail or industrial, like, no, that's not me, or office. But I can help with multifamily really up to like 30 units I'm comfortable with. So,
okay.
Yeah, kind of like delve in both in between commercial and residential.
I like it. Yeah, it's funny. I started off my investing career on straight multifamily. I went right to apartment buildings and never bought a single family house. Never bought it. Like it was just I went and sat down and started researching, and I said, nah, this economy's a scale thing. Seems to make sense to me. I'm just going to go buy apartment buildings, And now I look at it and go, maybe I'd rather go buy a 10 unit or a 5 unit, with a couple of buddies instead of these syndications, because we were doing large syndications. My first property was a 62 unit apartment with a couple of guys. It was a joint venture, but it's just completely different perspective. I was like, I don't know. That just seemed to make sense to me. But I hear something like what you're saying, and most people are kind of like, yeah, let me start out with a couple duplexes, maybe a quadplex, and then they work their way up, or maybe they don't. I don't know. But again, find your niche. Niches make riches, as it goes, right?
Well, also, like, I think it depends on who you're around, right? And so if you're around a bunch of people, like maybe a bunch of your friends were already buying, large apartment complexes, they were doing syndications, they were doing large JVs, joint ventures, right? And you're like, oh, well, this is what my buddies are doing. Okay, well, I can do that too. No biggie.
Yeah, because you can actually see a path there, which, I was excited because my wife was the one who kind of introduced me to all of this, and I had never even saved $1 before. And she was like, we should buy a house. We should buy real estate. She didn't say a house. She said real estate. So I was like, all right, let me go resurch real estate. And then I was like, hey, we're going to buy an apartment building. She about had a heart attack. She was like, I'm sorry, what did you say? Like, we're going to buy a what? But yeah, so we're going to buy this apartment building out in Tennessee. And she's like, we live in Japan. And I was like, I know, but that's okay. We'll make it happen. So it was a mess. But anyways, that's a side story that, so I want to kind of rewind, understand how Chris became Chris. Let's go back to your upbringing. Tell me about your family, especially your dad, kind of what sort of influence your parents had on you and what your upbringing was kind of like.
Yeah. So, born and raised in Portland. My parents actually still live in the same house that I was born in. My mom literally, I think they moved when she was 8 months pregnant. So, and then I was born, the following month. And my a lot of my friends like to refer to us as like the white picket fence family, right? Like just like kind of the perfect family, the ideal family, right? And in a joking manner, but in a serious manner, like we had an amazing upbringing, right? We were very fortunate. My dad was just sold his business a couple years ago. An entrepreneur as well, did life insurance sales, took it over from his dad, my grandpa, the Merz agency, and did very well, right? And my mom was fortunate enough, once she had me, I'm the middle of the 3 boys, so they had their second child. She stopped working as a teacher, right? She was working as a first grade teacher and was fortunate enough to, be able to be at home with us. And yeah, gosh, we went on amazing trips, grew up in the, grew up Catholic, baptized Catholic, went to K through 8, St. Thomas More here locally, with 25 other kids, right, in our the uniforms, right, the classic Catholic uniforms, with 25 kids from K through 8, so get to know those people very well. And yeah, being raised with 2 siblings, and then we have a half sister from my dad's first marriage. So she's 10 years older than me. And then I have two brothers, one older, one younger. And I don't remember my sister being around. She lived with us right until high school. Then once high school hit, so I was 4, she went down to live with her mom down in California. So I don't remember her being around. But yeah, with 3 boys, it was chaotic, right? Like we were talking about. And so a really great upbringing, right? And fantastic role models for, how parenting should be done, right? And always coming as like a united force. And I think as we step into parent roles, my wife and I have figured out, right? Like, oh, well, this is what my parents did. This is what, my parents did. And then we're trying to figure out, okay, hey, what would we like to do, as parents now?
What's going on, everybody? I wanted to jump in and take a second to tell you about the awesome team over at Wise VAs. Oftentimes, as entrepreneurs, we can feel a bit overwhelmed with mundane tasks that eat up our valuable time. And it's time to reclaim that schedule, all right? It's time to stop doing some of those $10 an hour jobs and give them back to an elite group of talent that are there specifically to help you and help you stay in your zone of genius. So delegate those $10 an hour tasks to focus on more $1,000 an hour tasks. Reclaim what matters most in your life, which is your time. Get that amazing team of elite remote talent that is there to help support you and make sure that you are giving back the best to your company. So schedule a free strategy call at getwisevas.com/Adam. That is getwisevas.com/Adam. It is an amazing group, an amazing team. They do an awesome job with everything that they've got going on there. If you have some tasks on the side, whether it's administrative, whether it's editing, whether it's recording, whatever it is, they have got an assistant for you, someone who is going to be able to help you out and take some of those tasks off of your plate. I thank Wise VAs every day for helping me process all of these podcasts, helping me take care of a bunch of stuff in the background. And I definitely would recommend them over to you. So again, getwisevas.com/Adam. All right. Thanks a lot. Back to the show. Okay. So your dad owning his own business or running his own insurance, was that all you remember him doing? Is that all he did really? Or did he have other jobs and stuff before he started his own business?
Oh, that was it. Yeah, he did a bunch of jobs before that, right? But he started working with my grandpa in his late 20s, I believe. And then I came around, I think, when he was 33. So yeah, he had already been in the industry for quite some time when I was born. And being in insurance, much different than what I'm in real estate. Like in real estate, I have to start from zero every year, because it's 100% commission. He has, it's a lot, it's constantly building on his business. And so he was always there, right? Like there was only a few nights when he would have to, stay at the office for like a big client, right? But pretty much every single night he was home at 5:15, had dinner. He coached all of our teams, right? Like soccer, baseball, lacrosse, you name it. He coached them all. Basketball, it was, and that's something that, as we're getting to that age where our kids are going to be, going into sports. That's something that I've always wanted to do, is coach as well. But yeah, so because of that, my dad was able to be very present, because the job allowed that, right? And also allowed us to go on some amazing trips that we'll always remember. We have so many trips that we get to talk about together as a family.
All right. Yeah, we did the amazing trips that I had growing up was usually when my dad and mom were both military. So when the military would move us, my mom got out before I was born, but the military would move us. Those were our amazing trips. We'd get on a road trip. We'd travel to a new base, stay at a hotel. We're like, this is awesome. And that was it. So it was not the white picket fence that your friends were giving you a hard time about, right? So What was it like kind of for you? Like, I'm assuming that you had other friends who did not have like dads who were coaching and, you know, all of the trips that you guys were going on and whatnot. So like, did you realize how much of a blessing that was as you were growing up, or was it not until later that you kind of understood what you had?
I don't know if I realized it like as I was younger, right? I think it's just kind of, you know, blinders on, and you're just kind of, you notice what's immediately around you. You're not really paying attention, right? But as we got older, probably middle school, probably more so in high school, is really when I started to notice like, oh man, we are, you know, very fortunate to have present parents and, you know, be able to not have to be concerned about, hey, where's our next meal coming from, you know, and being able to go on some amazing trips with other families, right? Like we have some of my parents' best friends, we would go on trips with them, right? That have kids similar to our age. And so, yeah, just, we were very lucky. Yeah. And I mean, I didn't have anything to do with that.
Of course.
It's just,
yeah,
that's where I was born. Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's, I feel very blessed to have the parents that I was born into, for sure.
So you said that you went to K through 8 at a Catholic school. Were you guys like every day or every Sunday going to mass type of folks, or more like the CEO, the Christmas and Easter only type of Christian? Like how did that work for you growing up?
Yeah, good question. So K through 8, we would go to at school. We would go to mass on Fridays, right? And then on top of that, we would then go back to the same parish on Sundays. So we were going to, from K through 8, we were all going to mass twice a week, you know. And then in high school, then it becomes optional, right? At least at mass at school. It's like, oh, do you want to go to mass or do you want to go to study halls, right? And I think, you know, during you're trying to figure out when you're going through high school and college, you're still trying to figure out like, hey, what do I really believe in? Like, this is how I was raised, you know, but like, what do I actually believe in? You know, and you're starting to question things rather than just like, oh, this is how it's done. And yeah, I was baptized and confirmed in the Catholic faith. And now my wife and I, you know, are having those questions of like, yeah, where are we attending? You know, and we're trying to figure out our footing, and, you know, more now with our family of going to at least the Christmas and Easter masses, and then, you know, sprinkling some more in on top of that. So.
Yeah, especially as you're having kids, trying to figure out, okay, what does this look like for our kids? You know, how do we want to, you know, what kind of faith do we want to start to drive into our kids, and where that goes? And that's where I think that talking about that on the podcast has become something that I really want to start to hammer out more, is because to me, it doesn't, I mean, I love teaching my kids business. I love being able to homeschool my kids and do all the stuff. But I mean, for me, following Christ is probably the best thing that I could teach them to do. And everything after that will kind of, you know, hopefully fall into place if I help them get the right head on their shoulders. But man, oh man, like you get smacked in the face real quickly with kids, and you're like, boy, what do I actually believe? Where do I actually want to bring this? What sort of things, you know? So what sort of conversations have you and your wife had? Right? I mean, your oldest is 4, so you know, you guys got married. You guys said, hey, you know, we got pregnant real fast. Now we've got these kids. Like, how do the conversations look like that for how you want to raise the kids? What kind of churches you guys want to do? You know, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, you know, so it's a topic that we're constantly having, right, in the household, and we're trying to, and my wife fully supports, you know, it's really more on my side because I was raised in the Catholic faith and she, you know, wasn't. And so, I think it's really, hey, me being the leader of the family. I think that's what we all are, right? As the father figure of, hey, this is what I like. This is what I would see our family doing, right? And this is the reasons why. And so, you know, having those conversations with my wife, she totally supports it, right? So for, you know, and I think the biggest decision we all make as men is who we're going to marry, right? And I was very fortunate to choose an amazing bride, right? That's extremely supportive and, always working together to improve not only our relationship, but also our relationship with our children.
Mm-hmm. And I tell people all the time, those are the top two choices you can make: follow Christ and marry a good woman. If you can do those two things right, golly, like that doesn't mean your life's going to be perfect, but man, oh man, does it make it a whole lot better. So I will stomp that like crazy and try to help people, encourage them to make the right decisions. It's funny. I was just seeing a post about Drake May, and so he's the quarterback of the Patriots, and there was a picture of like he and his girlfriend in junior high, and then he and his girlfriend at senior prom, and then he and his girlfriend at UNC, and then he and his girlfriend, I think wife now, but at the AFC Championships just this past week, right? And somebody in the comments was like, "Oh, I mean, I really hope you guys broke up and dated other people and saw the rest of the world and all these things." And I was thinking to myself, what a horrible thought process that is. Why can't we celebrate the fact that they found love at a young age? They know what they want. They're excited about it. They're growing together. They're building something together. They found the right person and they know it. So let's celebrate that. But instead we've got to be like, oh no, you need to go do all this other stuff that the world tells you have to do. And it's like, it drives me crazy. So, it's fun for me to hear conversations like, hey, yeah, we're good Catholic people, want to start having kids, so let's just go elope and just go make, like, my wife and I got married before our wedding because we were like, hey, I want to live in the same house. I want to, do all these, so let's go get married. So we did. But I love being able to celebrate finding the right people and having kids and enjoy your life and go and do it. So, that's what I strongly believe. And here you are now going to have these conversations about how do we raise these kids into this world that we're in, right?
Well, and no one preps you for those conversations, right? And do you have that conversation with your girlfriend that you're dating at the time of hey, what are the values that are most important to you when we raise children? Right? That conversation doesn't come up.
Yeah. I tell people it should.
It should, but it doesn't. Yeah. That's usually not how you're screening people. Now, maybe later on in life, yeah, okay, but that. And so I think finding someone where your values align, right? And then as you get closer to that, now you start having conversations about that. But that's not, something that comes up initially.
Yeah, probably not on the first date.
Probably not.
Tell me about how you want to mother your kids.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Here are the top 10 questions I should be asking. Right. Yeah. And the one thing that I have pulled from GoBundance, right, that we're both a part of, is doing couples coaching. Right. And Jamie Gruber, talks about this all the time. He's like, how often do you go get your teeth cleaned? Every 6 months. Everyone does it every 6 months, right? And do we do that because we have cavities? No, we do it because we want preventative. We want to prevent cavities. And then for the most important relationship of your life, what are you doing? Do you go to couples coaching? Do you go on dates? And that hit me so hard, right? And so ever since 2022, we've been consistently doing couples coaching. We've been going on one date every month, right? Used to be a little bit more once we prior to having kids, but that's something that I think everyone should be doing, but rarely people do. And people outside of the GoBundance community, they say, oh man, you do couples coaching? Is everything okay? Because it's correlated to something negative. But really, we're in the best relationship we've ever been in, and it's just so sad that that's how society thinks of couples counseling, couples coaching, right? It's oh, you guys are getting close to a divorce, Yeah.
It's a stigma attached to it as opposed to, wow, they're trying to grow together,
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. For sure. God forbid we try to grow closer to our wife. Oh, no. Build a better relationship with our spouse. No way. What sort of things would you say have been your biggest takeaways of the couples coaching that is like, man, this has really helped, fire up our relationship?
I would say just having it's more honestly probably on me than my wife, right? I think I'm, with that masculine energy, just I have a difficulty with communicating, right? Like I don't communicate what's on my mind. I kind of just log it and don't bring it up because I just want to avoid conflict as much as possible, right? That's me. And my wife is the opposite. She wants to bring conflict up when it occurs, right? And it's not really conflict. It's like a disconnect, right? We have a disconnect, then we come back together. And so I would say that's been the biggest help most recently is me realizing, okay, we all have disconnections. And the question is, how quickly can I communicate what's going on in my mind? And then coming back, right? Like repairing that. And that's been the most helpful, I would say, in the last 6 to 8 months for me, is just being a better communicator,
Do you think if I asked your wife this question, she would say that it's bigger inside of her, just like you said it's bigger inside of you?
Bigger.
Like you said, you think the change has been mostly inside of you, like the things that you've been trying to change. Do you think she would say the same thing about herself? Like, oh yeah, I think this couple of coaching has really helped me look inside of me for these X, Y, and Z things and have a different set of things that are in alignment with what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think we both have our areas that we're working on. And this has been mine, right? That I've been, focused on more recently. My wife's been focused on things as well. And so our, coach does a fantastic job of, hey, here's some takeaways and here's some things you guys can focus on and try to implement them, and we both have been making improvements, which is great, and we both noticed that.
Yeah. So I think the question behind the question is which I think you're already answering, but, is like, hey, sometimes when folks have these conversations, they're like, yeah, see, it was my wife this whole time. But you sat there and went, no, these are the things I needed to change in myself. And that's going to make us have a better relationship. And I want to encourage everybody to realize that, I think it's Shakespeare that said, nothing is either good or bad. It's thinking that makes it so, right? So we can sit by ourselves and think about one thing and say that it's terrible. But unless we've actually had a conversation with our spouse, it might not be terrible at all. It might be an amazing thing. It might be, we're just thinking that these things are bad. But when we internalize things ourselves and we hold on to things the way we want to, and then create a story in our head, well, now you've just created a false reality out there because there has been no conversation. So let's have the conversation, see what actually needs to be changed, adjust internally what we can, and move on from there. And our spouse is hopefully going to do the same thing. So.
Yeah, and usually when you're like pointing the finger, like you, really you need to turn that around or be looking in a mirror and be like, yeah, it's really you. Like, so, there's always something that we can work on, right? And trying to come together as a team is the most important in a partnership,
I don't remember who it was that I heard say something along these lines of like, oh, you want your wife to do all of those things? Like, are you being the husband that would allow your wife to do those things? Like, are you stepping into the role that would allow your wife to do those things? Are you being the husband that deserves those things to be done? And then it's like, crap. Yeah, it does all have to come back on me, because eventually, and it even talks about it in the Bible, like not to be unequally yoked, right? But one of the things it talks about is, if you're a woman and you married a man who's not a Christian, be the absolute best wife you can be, and hope to win him over to Christ by honoring him and doing the right things, right? So all about how you're reacting, what you're doing, not pointing the finger at the other person. There are times, of course, like if I went and punched my wife in the face, there's nothing she can do in this world that deserves me punching her in the face. That's a problem, right? So yes, there are times where it is the other person. She could clearly say, yeah, that's on me, right? But if I sit there and go, no, it's her fault. No, it's not. It's my inability to control myself. So again, comes right back into what we can do. So what does your wife do for a living? Maybe a stay-at-home mom, which my wife just started doing. So
she is a naturopathic doctor, right? And so she actually just started. She took about a year off. No, maybe it was 6 months off with our 1-year-old now. And she was went back, and working, 1 day a week. And now she's working 2 days a week at a new clinic that she's really thrilled about, and excited for the growth there. So, and then we homeschool as well, with our, 4-year-old. We're trying to figure out, what to do here next year, whether that's still going to be homeschooling or whether that's going to be sending, our 4-year-old, 5-year-old then to, kindergarten. I don't know. I know a lot of guys in GoBundance do homeschooling, and we have the ability to do that, which I'm so fortunate. But just trying to, figure out what works best for our family. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, on a side note, I'd be happy to chat with you about homeschool at any point if you'd like, just to kind of tell you what I do. And we're on our 3rd year of doing it now. So you were about to ask me something, though, or say something.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. I was going to ask, how has your experience been with that so far?
So I did the first 2 years. My wife was still active duty. I was running business from home, trying to manage all of the school stuff. And I'd say that it started for me. My son was in 3rd grade. My oldest, and he would come home. He'd have 7.5, 8 hours of school, and then he'd come home another hour and a half of homework in 3rd grade. And I was like, and we went to golf practice, so he'd go to school, golf practice, come home, do homework, still try to find time to eat, maybe sleep. And I was like, when does he get to be a kid? I don't understand what's happening, So I looked at my wife. I said, I'm already spent. I'm at the end of my day. And anybody that's listened to this podcast more than once has probably heard me tell the story, but it's worth repeating for anybody that hears it. Is I'm at the end of my workday. My brain is already shot. I've had so many meetings. I've done Zoom calls. I've done, spreadsheets. I've done all this stuff. And then my son has gone through all the stuff, learning Latin and learning all this stuff and doing his math thing and trying to catch up on that. And then comes home, and now we're both spent. And how do you think that relationship went sitting at that table trying to work out math problems? Not so great. He's mad at me because I'm upset and he's now crying. So I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do? And that was we're getting the worst of each other, not the best of each other. We're getting the absolute worst of each other at our already exhaustion point. So I looked at my wife and I said, we need to change it. I'd rather do 3 hours of work in the morning with them, and then be done with school than have to do an hour and a half at the end of the day. I can't. This is exhausting. So now saying all that, it's not perfect, of course, nothing ever is. But now this year, my wife started doing it. And we literally just last night, we're halfway through the school year. And just last night, I ordered some different stuff for programming just to help my wife out a little bit, because it's man, how do we manage this a little bit better? Okay, well, Adam can be now watching a video on this as opposed to waiting for me to come over and talk to him about it. Because he's 11 and he can watch videos and he does really well with it. And then we can chat about it afterwards, as opposed to having to go over and do the lesson. He can self-manage. Okay, great. that takes something off the plate. So there's always something that can go and help. And I strongly encourage folks to do it, because I also am not a fan of the world as a whole. So I don't want my kids going out into the world and trying to figure out this all out and me having to overcome whatever they heard throughout the day. I'd rather kind of help guide and mentor my kids the way I want them to be guided and mentored, as opposed to the way some teacher wants them to.
Exactly. Yep.
And since you're in the conservative bastion of Portland, I'm sure you have no problems with anything going on out there. So that's
yeah, it's a war zone here. It's a war zone here, so you got to be careful.
There were parts of it at some point that were definitely a war zone, but that's neither here nor there for this conversation. But so you've got your wife being a naturopath doctor, you running a bunch of real estate stuff. How did you were these what you guys were doing before you got married? Were these kind of the paths you guys were already on?
Yeah. So I got into real estate. We met in 2014, and that's the year that I got into real estate. And then my wife saw my shift from, I was becoming a firefighter, right? Volunteering, went through fire school, went through paramedic school, and then, trying to get hired on somewhere, and just met someone in the real estate industry and made a big career shift. And then my wife, she at the time was working at a malt manufacturing for beer. So they would manufacture all the malt for Corona, for example, right? These huge, beer companies, and then ship, all the malt to them. And she was like, I and they're trying to promote her, they're trying to move her up constantly. And she's like, I just don't like this. I'm not happy, And so we agreed that she would go back to school, full time. So she went back to medical school to become a naturopathic doctor for 4 years, and then literally graduated and took her boards. She took her boards a week after she gave birth to our first son, and passed with flying colors. So, I mean, that just goes to show you like what kind of, how diligent she is, in her studies, right? Compared to me, kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum. I kind of floated my way through, I think most entrepreneurs, like, hey, we're very social people, right? But when it comes down to being told to do something, I kind of push back a little bit,
Yeah,
have a little
I understand that.
to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and my wife has absolutely loved being able to help people with all of their needs, when it comes to health related, and shifting from this one clinic to now this new clinic. Every single patient that she's told that she's moving, they're like, oh, where is it? I'll be moving there with you, which is like, that just speaks volumes,
for sure.
This, so pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. And obviously if she found something that she loves, then it makes it just like 10 times better by far.
Yeah. And the, stay-at-home parents, like, man, that is in my opinion, the hardest job in the world, right? Like being patient, setting, goals for the day, homeschooling, creating activities, like that is, and then, on top of that, my wife, amazing. Like she cooks for us. She prepares meals. She, goes to this, like, it's just, man. And then, okay, as a male, all right, oh man, I complain about having to take out the garbage. Like, oh, woo me. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Gosh, so, that's one thing that, I've really tried to focus on, is trying to help out around the house as much as possible without having to be asked, right? And having that like burden taken off of my wife, so yeah.
To talk about the difficulties and the homeschool side and everything, like I was talking to my wife last night about homeschooling and how it's all going. And I said, because I obviously have been doing it for a couple of years and this is her first year. And she was like, I did not understand some of the rules on this, the language thing that I was teaching Rourke, and I don't understand like this and that. And she's like, well, you just seem to have like just always have it and it's always there. And I was like, well, hey, I've been doing it for 2 years, but I had to research all of it too. Like I didn't like know these rules and all this stuff. And it's one of those things that, you don't really think about until you're in it. It's like, oh, yeah, like I actually literally have to educate myself on how this goes. Like I never had to be a teacher before. I never had to, like you were talking about, I never had to, like nobody teaches you a lot of this stuff about, how I should have or most people don't teach you, like how should I have a conversation with my potential future wife? How should I think about raising my kids? How should I do all of it? Okay. How do I actually homeschool? How do I know what all of these things are? And it's like, man, I had to do a bunch of research and figure it all out. But I mean, I love learning. So it's easy for me to just kind of dig in and start going to town and learn and grow. But it's like, we're always so quick to do all of these. Okay, I'm going to learn this business book. I'm going to do this business thing. I'm going to grow my business. And it doesn't usually happen on the other way of like, how do I grow my marriage? How do I build my relationship with my kids? How do I do all, which is one of the reasons I love this podcast, because I get to talk to a bunch of people who actually think about those things and steal their good ideas. But man, it's just like, how much more intention should we have? Just like you were talking about the coaching with you and your wife, like how much more intentional should we be about how we're raising our kids and how I'm loving my wife than I am about my business? My business could fall apart tomorrow that I have nothing to do with because because COVID happens, right? And then business just shuts down because all of like my entire, like this one I just bought is all personal interaction. Okay. What if personal interaction disappears? Nobody would have thought in 2019 that was possible, but it did. But guess what? Like my wife was still home. My kids were still home. Like that was still something I needed. So why would I not work on all of that? So what sort of thoughts do you have on the building of a relationship with your kids? Like they're still young. So you're at a stage right now where you're kind of like, man, I can really build something here. I don't know how much thought you've even put into it or what sort of resources you've used to kind of work on how to be the dad that you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a little bit of coaching, right? For being a better dad, right? And we still have young kids, and so just trying to figure out what that looks like. And I'm feel very fortunate to be in an industry where I get to choose when I work, right? And I mean, just being an entrepreneur in general, right? Like, yes, in order to get your business going, you have to work a lot. Luckily, that was quite a few years ago. Now, it runs relatively well, and I've set up systems in order to do that. And so, okay, well, shoot, Carter has a fever and my wife's going to work. I can be at home. I can be at home all day, right? Like, no problem. Great. I can clear my schedule very easily. There's nothing on my calendar that I can't move. Along with that, like when it comes to, for example, coaching, right? Tanner currently is in karate, right? Or actually taekwondo, technically. So tonight he's getting a stripe, right? And then he's also getting another weapon, right? And so the master says, hey, this is a good one for you guys both to be present, right? Because usually it's just one of us that'll go, and then one of them will stay at home. But we're both like, yeah, we'll be there, no problem. Like, why wouldn't we? And I think it's those little things, right? I don't think it's anything like, oh, we're doing this one trip and that's gonna make me the best father in the world, right? Yeah. But it's these little things consistently over time where you build that trust with your kids to show them that you show up for them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it's funny because my son, my oldest, just recently he and I were talking about it because, like I said, those last 2 years I've been homeschooling, and I've been home sitting in this office chair right outside the door. Like they would do homeschool next to me. I had their desks behind me for a little while. We were just always together all the time. And all of a sudden, mommy's doing the homeschool, and I bought a business, so I'm at the business more often. And he's like heartbroken. He's like, what happened? Like, where are we at? And I was like, this is just a different stage on where we're at the moment. This isn't going to last forever. But he just loved all those moments. It wasn't because we went on this one vacation. It was just consistency. I was always there, helping him, doing things for him, like teaching him, climbing trees with him, doing, like shooting bow and arrow with him or whatever it is. It was just that consistency over and over again, which I strongly encourage that you keep up with. And it does get harder as the business grows and as the kids get older and as the things go. And it's just, as you have more kids, and it's like, oh man, how do I consistently keep doing this? But start it now. That's how you do it. Is you start it now and keep going.
Yeah, well, and also, what's the, put the rocks in the cup first, and then the sand will fill in everything else, right? What's the most important? Your wife and your kids, hands down. That comes first. Everything else will fill in around it.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that I was talking to somebody about it today recently they were like, oh yeah, you should have your kids join flag football with us. Cause it was like, well, there are only so many things I can fit in that jar. Like that's not some sand. True. I think I could fit. Like I think I'm done fitting sand. I think we're just going to stick to judo, and we're going to stick to trail life and stick to, there's just only so much. Cause I still do want to take trips with the kids and travel all over the place and do things. And if we're in 47th, and that's something that drives me crazy about some families, like that's like their entire world revolves around their kids' sports, and I'm like, I don't personally understand it. Like I mean, I guess I do partially, right? Because I'm a super competitive dude, but at the same point, I'm like, man, like my life can't revolve around my kids' sports. I don't.
Well, that being said, like if your kid was like, hey, Dad, this is really important to me, and I really care about this. Can we do this? Of course, right? But I'm not going to set you up to revolve our life around this if you're not like all in on it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we were, all in on golf for quite a while. Adam loved going out golfing. every Sunday we were on the golf course. He was in a competition. He was doing something. You know, we built a simulator in the house so he can just smash golf balls, and like he just, you know, he was in there smashing them yesterday. Then we had to take a couple seasons off, and just like, okay, let's settle in. Like, okay, it's not as important right now. Okay, let's settle back. Let's get our minds right in the different spot and different area. And but man, oh man, I'd meet some of those dads that were just like authoritarians on the golf course with their kids, and I was like, golly, I feel so bad for these kids. Like, oh my goodness. Did you ever have that feeling at all with your dad as he was coaching you and doing all the coaching things, like that there was, you know, that pressure or anything like that?
Never.
No,
Never had
very
that.
good.
Now, did I see that in other parents, right?
Oh,
that were coaching, like, or that weren't coaching but thought they were coaching? Like, I think we all see those, and you're like, whoa, I am so glad my dad does not do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, he's just always extremely supportive and wanting us to, do our best. You know, doesn't matter if you win or lose. Doesn't matter if you miss the shot or make the shot, right? It's, hey, so proud of you for doing your best today.
Yeah, that's lovely. So I want to go back into the business a little bit more. Tell me about the size of your business that you're doing now. What are your goals as you're growing? You know, we're at the start. We're still in January as of recording. So what are your goals for the year? What are you trying to do?
So my goal, right, for the year, it's kind of twofold, right? One is on the realtor side, right? And that's my, active income. And then the other side is building out Rama Capital, which is an investment firm that I have. There's 4 of us, and we're buying small multifamily apartment complexes from 5 to 30 units. And so scaling that as well. And so, volume wise, it really comes down to, all right, we're going to, on the realtor side, going to help, people buy and sell 16 million worth of volume. And then on the Rama Capital side, we're going to buy 8 million worth of volume this year.
Wow. Fantastic. Do you have any idea how many transactions that's going to take for you to get the 8 million? Like, I don't know do you buy right there in Portland, or you buy somewhere else? Like, what is your...
Yeah, local to Portland, right? Local to Portland. And really, shoot, we could get there within 2 to 3 if we're buying, 20 to 30 unit apartments, but it would take, a few more if we're doing 5 to 10, right? So, yeah.
150 a door there or something like that, 200 a door?
Yeah, generally, right? Anywhere from 100 to 150 a door is usually what we're at. And that number's, as the unit count gets higher, the number goes down, right?
Or it can. Some places that decide not to. Florida doesn't seem to go down when the size gets bigger. I'm like, I don't understand. Come on, you guys are killing me here.
Yeah.
But insurance murders us down here, so it's rough.
I'm sure.
But
I'm sure.
Man, oh man. So what's the size of team that you have there as far as the realtor team?
Yeah, so I'm on the Fox Real Estate Group. We do. My partner, right, started in 2006, and he's now built, this team. We are the third largest in volume for the state of Oregon, right? So we do, quite a bit of business here, and I think we've got, I don't know, it's hard to keep track, 12, 13 agents, right? And then a support staff as well. I think there's 5, 6, 7 people on the support staff. So, a decent sized team that has a fantastic culture and, always working to help each other improve, which is, the biggest reason why we're all on this team.
Is that where you started in 2014? Was with the Fox Real Estate Group or elsewhere?
No. So in 2014, actually was working with this gentleman that told me to get into real estate. He told me everybody in their 20s should buy a fourplex. I was like, first of all, what is a fourplex and how do you do that? So he gave me his business card, called him the next day. He set up a 2-week internship. At the end of that 2-week internship, gave me a job offer, worked there for, 2.5 years. and that's a large developer in the Portland metro, doing land development, which you guys don't have this in Florida. There's only 3 states where they have the urban growth boundary, right? So it's this invisible line that they draw around the cities, and they say you can build inside the cities, but you cannot build, subdivisions outside of the cities, right? You can farm outside of it, okay? And so it's a lot more thoughtful planning, right? Complete, drastic opposite is, think about LA, where there's just cities everywhere. Think about Dallas, where it just keeps going. It doesn't stop, right? You can be in the middle of downtown Portland, and you can drive 30 minutes, and you can be in the middle of farmland, right? And you can see the literal the line where there are subdivisions and then farmland as far as you can see, right? And so it's very, and there are, a lot of other cities that come to Portland because of how thoughtful we have been with our planning, and want to duplicate it, right? And so there's a business model there. We would buy land outside the urban growth boundary. We'd farm it. We'd buy it for pennies. And then we would lobby politicians to bring it in, because every 7 years they have a discussion of which parts we're going to bring in. And then we would sell it to builders like, Lennar. And we get it entitled, and all that, right? Platted and approved. And then we would also buy multifamily value add plays. And so I was really like the jack of all trades. I would help with everything and learning everything when I knew nothing about real estate, and then worked there like 3 months and bought a fourplex, right? And he was like, this is it. Here's the one, buy this. And I was like, okay, great. How do I do that? He was like, well, put this whole package together, copy ours, right? Gave me, the packages they would use to raise money. And I went out and, brought $2,500 of my own, and then went out and raised $100,000 from friends and family, and it worked.
Yeah, I can't tell you how amazing of advice that is that in your 20s, everybody should own a quadplex. And then you, before I rudely interrupted you, were saying that you lived in one unit, and I'm assuming rented out the other 3, and then...
Exactly. Totally. Yeah. Spot on. And paid all the investors back, right?
For sure. That's awesome.
And it worked really well, right? Now, in this market, can you do it? Yes. It's a lot more difficult, right? Because this was just an on-market deal that had just been flipped, literally. So I didn't have to do a single thing to it. It was great. But there are still those deals in other markets. There are still here in Portland. You just have to know how to find them.
Do some digging for sure. Yeah, we try to teach people all the time. I used to be an owner of an education company that taught military members and veterans how to invest in real estate. We wrote a book called Military House Hacking, specifically to teach people, as you're moving from station to station, buy a duplex, buy a triplex, buy a quadplex. Like, especially if you can manage to use your VA loan for it, you could go with 0 money down, buy a quadplex, live in one of them, rent out the other 3, and then when you leave, you can now rent out all 4. And still have the same amazing loan, and not like, what the heck, so move on, go somewhere else. And if you're strategic about how you do all of this, maybe you can refinance, take your cash, go buy another house in the next spot, go buy another quadplex. And then before you know it, the military sent you to 10 different places. You have 10 quadplexes when you leave. Now, granted, you're probably not going to buy quadplexes the entire time. You're probably going to get married. You're probably going to have kids. So it may change some things, but too many people I see all the time, they're buying their dream house when it's not time for your dream house yet, right? Like, don't buy your dream house yet. And I've caught myself doing it, right? You got to get there. Don't overbuy, but especially when you can look at, you're going to be moving in a couple of years, military folks. Like that's because that's who I was talking to all the time. And it was like, so you're going to buy this house because you think it's amazing and all this stuff, and then you're going to just move. You're not going to have it anymore. You're not planning to come back to Sumter, South Carolina, right? That's probably not where you're going to want to live. So
and good luck if it's appreciated at all, right? Like, especially in some of those markets, you're probably going to sell it for what you bought it for, so you're actually probably losing money.
Yeah, in the grand scheme.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? And man, if people, whether or not they're in, the military, shoot, just anyone that's in any city, just in your 20s, start buying places, right? Okay, if it's a fourplex, fantastic. If it's just a bedroom that has, or a house that has 4 bedrooms, rent them out to your buddies, you know? And now all of a sudden you have an asset. You can get closer to maybe even becoming a real estate professional, right? If you talk to your CPA and figure out how to do that appropriately. And now you can offset your income against your real estate.
For sure. For sure. I was talking to somebody recently about, they were like, I've never heard of this. Help me understand. And like, I've been doing it for so long that my brain is just like, how do people not know this? But they don't, and that's all right. And I would imagine in what you're doing with helping people getting started in investing and focusing on those folks, like these conversations are stuff you have. So if you were to try to recommend some things for folks to think about as they're looking into their first properties, and which is what you kind of do, their first investment properties, what are the stages of what does that look like as you're talking to these folks?
I would say, usually it's 2 people, right? Kind of, 2 avatars as they're starting their real estate investing journey. Okay. One, it's either, hey, like I barely have any money, right? And I'm trying to buy my first place. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Go out, borrow some money, get a gift, whatever, right? Bring on a JV partner, find a deal. Okay. I can help you do that. And the money will follow. Okay. And just get your hands on some assets, right? And go out to friends and family to get that capital, because they're going to give you way better terms and they're going to want to see you succeed than a stranger that you just met at a meetup, and then the other side is, hey, I'm a really high income earner. I'm a CPA that sees clients do really well in real estate. And now I want to start doing it. Or I'm a doctor and last year I paid $200,000 in taxes. And I now want to, I heard somebody mention that I can offset my income if I buy a short-term rental. What does that look like? And so now working to get rep status, real estate professional status, to now offset your W-2 income. And now what you would have paid to the government, you now can buy an asset that you can hold on to. And so and usually when you ask, a lot of high income W-2 earners what their highest expense is, what do most people say? Spot on. Oh yeah, my mortgage. No, you just don't see the money, so you don't even think about it. But really, it's your taxes. And so, I'm the smarter, right?
It's okay to say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wiser, perhaps, right?
Yeah. Wiser, people kind of dig into that a little bit and start, understanding, especially with ChatGPT, it's so easy. Like, how do I do this? Right? Like, you can figure it out very quickly, and talk to, a real estate professional that understands how this works, and talk to a CPA that understands how this works, because not all CPAs encourage it. There's a vast difference between certain CPAs as well. You might have to fire a couple to find then the one that works, right? Like I had to. The best advice that I got was hire a CPA that also owns real estate, because they're going to selfishly learn a bunch about real estate and how that can benefit them more so than if it's just helping their clients.
And then you get to enjoy all the benefits of their research they did for themselves. For sure. That's wise. I like it.
So, yeah.
Yeah, very cool. The creation, I mean, you talked about niching down into the investor side of the house. Like, how did that kind of conversation start? I mean, most real estate agents I talk to, like, that's just all they do is just buy and sell real estate with anybody that'll walk into their door. And you were like, no, I want to focus on these folks. How did you decide that you wanted to niche down and help those folks?
Because I just love that side of the business personally.
Okay.
Right?
Good enough reason, right? Yeah.
I think it was just selfish. It's like, okay, what fills my bucket the most? Like, okay, yes, I still have clients, past clients, friends, family, right, that will reach out to me and I'll help them buy and sell real estate, right? Is that what I'm going out and searching for? No. But, and I've kind of branded myself with that as well, with like the investor realtor, because we have the meetup every month. My VA pushes out a bunch of social media from all the content we get from that. And so, have a YouTube channel, have all that stuff, and so it's kind of just, blossomed into that over the last 3.5 years with the meetup. And then also buying investments and doing that. And so, it's something that in my spare time, like that's what I'm listening to. I'm reading books or listening to podcasts on that. And so it's not like, oh man, I got to go, learn about what's going on in the economy. Like, no, like that's what I enjoy, like, okay, how is this going to affect the interest rates? Right. And what are the economists saying that what's going to happen this year? So yeah, I don't know. It's just something that I really enjoy.
I love it. And it's one of those, we talked about it when we mentioned your wife, like if you love it, then it makes life so much easier to just keep chasing it and keep doing it and have a good time with it. What are your thoughts on including your kids in the business as they get a little bit older? Obviously, I mean, like even small things like just having them at the office and overhearing conversations. And, have you and your wife talked about how you want to, or your thoughts on including the kids in various parts of the business?
Yeah, good question. Right. So I think that my mind immediately thinks about two things, right? One is as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of tax benefits that we can utilize to pay our kids, right? So one, that's kind of selfishly, but also like including them in what the business looks like to then also, hey, now we're paying less in taxes. And then that's going into, our child's savings account, which then can be put into their 529 or whatever it is, right? Whatever you decide to do. Okay. So there's that side of it, which is teaching them at the same time. And then also it's being methodical of, okay, then what is there that we can bring them in on to teach? And so for example, like a lot of times I end up bringing Tanner, right, our 4-year-old, to give keys, to clients, because that's a really fun thing for him to see. And then the clients are excited about it because they're stoked. And then they're also like, oh my gosh, you're including your son in this, and I'll go open the lockbox. He'll get the key out. He'll hand it to him. Right. We get photos all together. And so he starts to understand like what this looks like, and then starts to ask questions as well, because, he's 4 years old. He's really, interested rather than just like, oh, this is what dad does. He's like, oh, so wait, they just bought this duplex. There's one side, that side's big. Who lives on this side? Right. And so he was asking, some of those questions. And so then starting to explain what that looks like rather than just being like, you should buy real estate, but having him, be exposed to it and asking the questions, I think and being intrigued in it is a much better way to teach,
So you're in a really amazing position, which it sounds like you already kind of understand. Like you grew up in a family that had entrepreneurship already there. You were in a good relationship with your parents. And now you get to raise your kids in a similar world. Have you sat down and had conversations with your dad to say, hey, what are the things you wish you would have taught me? Or what are the things that you feel like you missed out on doing that maybe you can kind of take as tools or tips to bring to your fatherhood journey? Brendan
Burchard, right? Kind of like one of the big personal development guys, right? He's kind of the coach of the coaches. He mentioned he was I think his dad passed, and he was so frustrated that he had not sat down with his dad and asked him these questions, right? And so I found those questions, and I literally sat down with my dad 2 summers ago, recorded those, right? And walked through all of those. It's 35 questions. And it took us, I think, 4 hours, right? It was like 2 different sessions, 4 hours long, asking about his childhood, asking about raising us, asking, everything, right? And there are still some questions, this being one of them, of, hey, what is something that you wish you would have done to bring us into, entrepreneurship more, or teach us more about business, or, teach us more about our financial well-being, right? And so kind of a long-winded answer to your question is no, I have not had that, but I've definitely thought about that. And then like adding that on to this video that I have. And actually this, my parents snowbird, right? So they're down in Palm Springs in Southern California right now. But when they come back, I have a scheduled time with my mom to sit down with my mom to do the exact same thing.
So I'm going to definitely ask then, what sort of questions and what sort of questions did you already ask your dad? And which ones were you actually surprised by the answers to?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a list of questions. You said that, but just a few of them that pop in your head, especially the ones you were surprised by the answers.
You know, I mean, I was just talking, I bring this up probably once a week, right? I asked my dad, what was the reason, what was it that made you so successful in business, right? And he said, always doing the right thing, no matter what it is, right? Like we know down in our gut what is the right thing to do, you know? And that's how, you know, I have thought about my business. Now, do I do it every time? No, but ever since that, you know, I have definitely thought about it and try and emphasize that as much as possible, right? So that was one that's really stuck with me, always doing the right thing. And we'll never always do the right thing. We're imperfect beings, right? But just trying every single day to strive for that is important. And then probably the one that I was maybe expecting but wasn't fully ready for was what was the most, you know, impactful moment raising, you know, us as children. And in 2010, I fell off a balcony. We were up for my brother's graduation from Gonzaga, and I had too much to drink and was sitting on a balcony and fell off backwards and went 2 stories down to concrete face first. And the doctors, you know, I got immediately rushed to the ICU. The doctors put me into an induced coma. They told my parents, who knows if he'll wake up, right? If he does, he may not even have the same personality because my brain was so swollen. He may not have any memory of the past. And I woke up 18 hours into it and I looked around after they had, you know, removed the tube. And I was like, so does this mean I get medical marijuana? And my parents laughed. Everybody laughed. And they were like, oh my gosh, it's Chris.
He's back. He's here. Yeah.
So, but my dad shared, and he cried, you know, in this moment. He said, you know, that moment when not only us fully relying on Christ, right, and praying, and realizing how important that is in moments that you need him the most, right? And then his group of friends that surrounding himself with, those friends that I mentioned that we went on trips with, they showed up in a big way, right? Like one of them literally was on every single call with my parents to talk through like, hey, here's the, here's the, you know, what they're saying in medical terms, because he's a doctor, and this is what it means to you, right? And then, you know, another great friend rented a private jet, you know, to like fly us home rather than us like having to drive back from, you know, Gonzaga. And he flew the jet up to pick us up. He took the Suburban that we had and drove it back, and we all flew back in the jet, right? And so just like, you know, those types of friends are the people that you want to have, you know? So yeah, that was for sure surprising, to know that was like the most impactful moment of him raising children, right? And he had 4 of them, right? So
How old were you then in 2010?
I was 19 at the time. Yeah.
Right at the start of your adulthood, he watches this happen. I would imagine that was unbelievably impactful, and obviously still impactful to you even now. Like, I can't, there's the, since we're both in GoBundance, I don't know if you've actually read the book that they wrote there, Tribe of Millionaires, right? Where, having that tribe around you, the impact that it makes, like having those true core friends that help make you better, that, that help strengthen you up. And that's where it's those times of trials. Sure, the great times are great, but it's those times of trials that those people really show up in a big way that make a massive difference in your life. And I love to hear that your dad had those, and that you took that lesson afterwards, and hopefully that tragedy kind of smacked more than just your head, but your soul too, and kind of like, okay, this is what I need to do. This is where I need to go. I see where I need to be.
I'm fortunate to be alive. I'm fortunate to be walking. I still have 0 impact from that, right? Like, I 100% recovered. So it's insane.
I was going to tell you that I noticed some impact on it, but I'll leave that alone. Never mind. I am a sarcastic jerk, though. I can't help it. That's just what I am. Man. But Chris, it's been fantastic. I mean, to get to chat with you, I'd love to just kind of wrap it up on that thought process of surround yourself with the right people. Be that person for others, like stand next to people during their hard times and support them, and be like, you may not own a private jet to be able to fly somebody back and forth, and you may not have a friend that owns a private jet, but that doesn't mean you can't be the person that's supporting them in whatever they need at that moment, to take burdens off of people, to be by their side. Look at the fellow dads around you and say, hey, what can I do to support that dad? What can I do to support that family? And be the best human being you can be to these people. So I love that story came out. I don't know if you were expecting to tell that story or not. Probably not. But I love that it came out. And yeah, that's awesome. So if folks are hearing this and they're like, man, I'd really like to chat more with Chris. Maybe they're in the Portland area. Maybe they're not. Maybe they just want to learn a little bit more about what you do or how things go. They just really connected with you in one way, shape, or form. What's the best way for folks to get a hold of you, Chris?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on Instagram, Chris Merz. That's MERZ as in zebra, RE.
Chris Merz, RE. Very good. Well, we'll have that in the show notes for sure. And then before we close it out, was there anything that you wish we would have talked about that we did not?
No. I think we hit the important parts of life rather than just always talking about business, right? Like, being a husband and a father is way more important and a way bigger role than being a realtor or an investor.
Yep. The realtor and investor are just tools to help you be a better father and husband. So, whatever your job is, wherever you're bringing the money in from, the money is not the goal. Like, that's just a tool to help you move through life and be a better father and better husband. So, Chris, I greatly appreciate, again, you jumping on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I greatly appreciate you joining. If you found value in this conversation, please send it to somebody that you think will also get value from it. A majority of you that listen are not subscribed, so please subscribe, share with others, and I look forward to seeing everybody on the next show. Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you so much for listening to the BizDad Podcast. We hope you found some value in your time here with us, and we look forward to bringing you the next episode. If you've enjoyed today's show, please subscribe and share so you and your friends won't miss our upcoming episodes. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Rumble, where we continue these discussions and share more valuable content. Be the dad you know you need to be and run your business in a way you're proud to share with your kids. Keep crushing it.